Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Azure Cosmos DB Live TV. I'm Mark Brown, and today I've got with me Tomasz Naumowicz. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
I'm never going to be sure of myself. Welcome, Tomasz. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm good. I mean, it's really good to be here. So, how about you?
I'm pretty excited. I'm also tired, too, from we had our online nearly 24-hour conference Tuesday, Wednesday this week, and I'm still recovering, but I'm doing good, and I'm really excited to do this show with you today. I've seen and been talking to you for some time, and I'm just really psyched and looking forward to what you're going to show us today. So why don't you introduce yourself, I guess, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's go on a tour.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm really excited as well. So, being able to present Alpaqa Studio to you and to our audience watching is really great. So, my name is Tomasz Naumowicz. That was, spot on pronunciation, actually. And I'm one of the founders of Alpaqa Studio, but I'm also one of the developers on the team. So it's not just me, somebody who just talks about the tool, but actually I also know what's happening behind the scenes. So I'm asking you and the audience if you have any questions about, what's happening with Alpaqa Studio, how it works, what's happening there. Feel free to ask all those questions. And the plan I have for today is to achieve two things. The first thing is to show you Alpaqa Studio in action. So I want to, for you to see how it could potentially help you in your use cases. And the second space is really talking about our roadmap, because that's something that will be heavily influenced by the feedback we'll get from you. Yeah. So Alpaqa Studio is, in one brief sentence, it's a cloud-native management studio for Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB, but it goes by many names. So you very often call it an IDE, a GUI, a tool, but in the end, it's really something that will help you with being more productive when working with Cosmos. That's really our main motivation, main goal. So we want to make sure that Alpaqa Studio makes you more powerful, lets you save time, and also provides a great user experience at all times. And that's really something that we're really focusing on when we're planning features, when we're implementing them, testing them. That's really our driving force for the tool, for the application. And very important thing to highlight today is that our co-offering is going to be a managed solution. So you'll just open your browser, go to an URL, and just have Alpaqa Studio ready for you within seconds. You can start working with your Cosmos DB. And in the next iteration, the next phase, we'll also offer a self-hosted solution. So you'll be able, depending on your requirements, you'll be able to take Alpaqa Studio and put it in your own Azure account, if that's what compliance needs. And we use that PowerPoint template here, but actually it's very handy because those empty spots, there are some exciting things that we have on the roadmap as well. But it's just too early to announce them today. But the goal is really to have a comprehensive solution that lets you work with Cosmos DB, in different ways, depending on what's the need, what's the use case.
Well, that's good. Just tease us a little bit there for new stuff to come, right? So that's all
precisely. So you see, at least two more, but who knows?
Maybe more. You got more space on that slide.
I do. So, but let's just dive into the demo, because that's why we're here. So I want you to see Alpaqa Studio live and in action. So there we go. Is my screen visible on your end?
I made it a little bigger too by taking our talking heads off there.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. So what you're seeing here is Alpaqa Studio. It's a web-based application. It's in the browser. I just had to hide the URL because it's actually my dev endpoint for the preview. So it's not a good thing to have it on the live stream. So that's why it's hidden away. But it's really a browser, and we have the application here. And what you recognize is that it's really inspired and based on VS Code. So all the nice things in terms of UI, like being able to have things side by side, having more widgets and so on, keyboard shortcuts, it's all built in the application. It's really a proper IDE that runs in the cloud. And let me briefly show you, around here. So what we have is on the left-hand side here, we have a couple of widgets that help you, discover what you can do with the application. So you see, I'm signed in as Tomasz Naumowicz. I can do things like, basic settings. If you're at night, it's 10 p.m. on my end right now. You can switch to the dark theme, maybe light theme, as you prefer. And then, the core of the application is, seeing all the Cosmos DB accounts that I have attached to Alpaqa Studio. And we'll be spending the majority of the time here today in that section. And then area number 3, that widget here, is something that's really great for all, long-running operations. So think of data migrations or doing larger modifications on your data sets. You'll be able to create them here, monitor them here, and just see what's happening. And we call them background tasks, but you can think of jobs, scheduled activities, and so on. But let's leave it for now. We'll be looking at it at a later time. And let's just go to our accounts. So what I have here is I plugged in 2. So our experimental account and another one that has 2 databases, a couple of containers. So a view that you'd expect from a real database IDE. You can see what's in there, but let's just open one of the containers. So I have data exported from Yelp, a few interesting data sets, and I just open it. And what happens now is that after the double click, we open the container, just hide that section away, and we load the data for you. But what we don't do is we don't just display the raw JSON format, but we try to make it much easier to navigate. So when you look at the right-hand side here, you can switch between the different views that we offer with Alpaqa Studio, so table view, tree view, and JSON view. And let's just briefly switch to the raw format. So this is how the data comes back from Cosmos DB. So if our viewers never used Cosmos DB before, you see NoSQL database. The schema can be very flexible. You see I have a couple of entries at the root level of a document, and then I have some embedded documents in here. So it's really powerful, but also it's really great to explore it in a JSON format. But what's difficult is, for example, it's not that easy to compare documents, and that's why we're different views can help. And our default view is the table view. And what we do here is just load all the documents for you and try to display it in a meaningful format. So in here, you'll see we have all the fields that we've seen at the root level, and we pull the data here. So what happens now is, especially when you're in depth, you want to look at the data, you expect some uniformity. All of my documents typically look the same, have the same schema. Then looking at it in a table format really helps, because you can quickly spot potential anomalies or bugs in your code, because that's what it's all about. When you're in depth, you want to make sure things run smoothly.
So you're inferring, I guess, the schema here when you're looking at it. How deep do you go?
Precisely.
How many rows are you looking at when you're doing schema inferencing?
So today we do everything that's displayed in the view. So if I increase the page size, we're looking at 100 documents. We don't merge that information just yet. The motivation here was to make sure that when you look at the data, you really look at the data that's available right now. And we had use cases when we tested different scenarios that, imagine the next page contains a lot of names that start with an A. So you'd be basically looking at a blank page, and that was something that when we did UX testing, that was really annoying to our users. So we actually stripped that away, and we don't merge that information anymore. So we really look at that individual page, and we fill it with data. So only because here that entry is empty, that's why it's visible. Otherwise, we would just not see that field.
Can I ask a question? So,
please do, yes.
A use case that we frequently tell customers is to put different types of data. Right, or different entities, like say customers and sales orders, and stick them in the same container. So if I had something like that here, I would basically, how would that look, I guess, if I was looking at
it's actually one of the use cases that we have on our own database. So when we store settings and stats for our product, and it's really good because by using the tool, we discover what's slightly annoying and what's helpful. So today, what you will see is you'll see those documents just all together. So it will be documents of every type in a single view. So it's not that easy to compare the data. So the only solution around that today is to just specify the where statement and just look at specific documents. We have something,
and basically just filtered by the discriminator property there.
Precisely. That's the way to go. We've been talking to a couple of potential customers and users that are in our early access program about making it more explicitly. So being able to let me go here, provide kind of name. The name would be misleading. It's still difficult to find the proper name, but you should be able to just expand that business node here and be able to see those different subdocuments, and we would be preparing the query for you. But it's something that's still being in planning and in discussions, because we're just collecting user feedback. How many people really need that? How many would really like that? So a question to our viewers. If you're in a situation that you really do that, and you want to be able to distinguish between different document types, please get in touch, because we are really eager to have you on board and see how you would use that feature. But yes, it's something that we've been discussing already. It's just not there yet in that public release.
Yeah, I got a question from a viewer here.
Yes.
Are you planning to display spatial data in a user-friendly format? I'm guessing that would be maybe a map for geography data, or some sort of shape for geometry data, I guess.
Yes, so I'll be talking about the roadmap in a couple of minutes, but it's not on the roadmap that I prepared for the call, because it's somewhere in the section number 3. So when we start working on performance tuning and monitoring, we also want to display spatial data. It has been very often requested. We're just collecting feedback again. But in that release and what it's planned for the release in May next month, it's not there yet, but we are really...
so it's coming down the road.
It is.
Got it. Cool.
And when we talk to the roadmap, I will highlight where it's where it's the window of opportunity for us to make things like this available already. Thank you.
Yep.
So just one thing that I'd like to show here, and that view is very important, that, remember when we looked at the raw data, we had that attributes field, and it had some embedded documents. And in the table view, when it just flattened out like that, we don't see the data. So what we implemented here is the way of being able to navigate inside of such fields. So when I double click somewhere here, what happens is we go one level deeper for all the documents that we have in the view here. So we still have that document ID here. So we have that icon here. It tells us it's the ID. And then we see all the properties of the subdocument. It's really excellent for those cases where you're in depth, you're looking at the data and see, okay, where is that value set, where it's not available. You can quickly assess, what you have in your data set. And always, of course, you can just go up, navigate out, and you're again at the root level. So that view is great for being able to, look at the data at once, compare multiple documents, and compare in terms of, very interactive work with the data. So you can do paging and just see, okay, what's on the next page, what's on the next page, what's on the next page. You can go back. So it's really, the idea was here to be able just, the data should not be hidden away. It's really just around the corner for you. Briefly taking a look at the JSON view, at the tree view, because as the name suggests, it's the same data, but for those cases where you are working with individual documents and you really want to get a good understanding of the structure. So it's in the tree format. It's very easy to see, what's embedded, what's not. You quickly see the field names, the values, and you see the the basic JSON types that we have here. And geospatial data, when we'll add GeoJSON, will be inferring that that specific format. It could be a GeoPoint, for example, but that's that's still in the design work here. Let's go back here, and now so we looked at navigating the data, and let me show you something more that's also exciting. So because looking at the data is just one one part of the deal here. Let's open another container, and we'll be looking at editing data. So again, imagine you're in dev, you're trying out the application, and you want to see what happens when a certain value changes in the data. So what you have to do, you just need to change it, but you don't want to be coding. You just go here, you use Alpaqa Studio, you double click somewhere, and you just change the value. So let's say 500 compliments, why not? Let's make it 5,000. I hit enter, and we execute the update for you behind the scenes. So today, it's an update of the entire document, so we don't use Cosmos DB patching just yet, but we'll do.
You will when
it's in GA.
Out,
precisely.
Sure.
Yes,
everybody's going to want to use that. So.
Yes, yeah. For us, it's really helpful because we'll save a lot of data traffic here. Yep. So right now we had to read the entire document, replace that one value, and write it back. So it'd be helpful to just reduce that section. But from the point of view of a user of Alpaqa Studio, it's really helpful just to be able, let's, for example, you think that's a typo, just use Alpaqa Studio, change it. So you don't need to fiddle with JSON, making sure you don't miss a comma or something, you don't destroy your document. So it's really much easier way of doing modifications like that. And it's again something that really looks at developers. You're testing the application, you're doing something, you want to see if the data is in the database already. You just refresh the view and everything is visible at once. But we can go even further. So where Alpaqa Studio really shines is when it comes to bulk updates. So if you want to update multiple documents, multiple fields at once. So let me show it to you here. We have that data. I imported it to Cosmos DB, and I added one field with the name version. I just set it to 1. And let's see, I have a scenario. I want to make sure it's a new version because I'm changing something in the application. So I just use the context menu, and that's how I can access all my bulk operations that relate to fields. And I could add another field to the document. I could rename a field, maybe delete one, or just add it. So really think of being able to reshape your documents on a live database. And so if you didn't do any forward engineering, you can still fix things. And it's really when requirements change, it's very important to have an easy way of changing your data as well. So we are here. I wanted to edit the field. Let's say I'd like to change its value to number 2. And you see, I'd like to do it not for just the current document, but actually, for all documents in the container. You see, I could also do, filtering. So maybe I have a subset of documents I'd like to modify, and I can say, all documents in the container, and I'd be ready. So imagine up until today, you'd have to do some custom coding, and now you can just, configure it here easily. So we see that it's really helpful, and we hear very positive feedback about that.
Yeah, that's totally cool. I love this feature. There's lots of features in here that are great. So
cool. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And look here. So because I was always highlighting that it's great for dev because modifying data, adding fields, removing fields is something that you usually you probably should not be doing in production, but sometimes you have to. Because so what we added here, and we made sure that it's available as as often as technically possible, that you can actually throttle Alpaqa Studio, because in the default approach, we just go to your database and we just use all the RUs available, and maybe we would be hindering your other application not working. So we'll be doing something bad to your traffic. But you can ask Alpaqa Studio to step back. So let's say I don't want to go with my full 5,000 of my container, but actually let's stay at around 1,000. I say edit, and what happens now in the behind the scenes, we create a background operation and just run it for you. So this is the space, I showed you that we'll have those background tasks here, and you see what's happening. So we had some buffering in progress, and now the operation started. You see how many documents were processed, and you see the the average throughput right now, and you see we slowly will be oscillating around that 1,000 that we set. So it's really, Alpaqa Studio can coexist and help you in production environments, or in every environment, and make sure that you just don't do anything nasty with your.
When you're doing a background task, then is this is this creating a new connection
Yes,
to Cosmos?
It does.
Okay.
So what we have here is that so Alpaqa Studio as the application, it does all the interactive work with Cosmos DB, but we also have a separate environment that does all those heavy lifting.
And I'm guessing this is in bulk mode. Is you're leveraging bulk mode as well for this?
Not yet actually. Okay. So we're getting there in iterations. So right now it's very naive, but with lots of buffering and smart, request unit adaptations. But we want to use bulk mode as well. The reason why we didn't do so yet was to make sure that we have everything totally under control first, and then we'll start improving the performance. So up until now, we didn't have those bottlenecks, but it will come.
Sure.
Yes. Very important thing for you to know. So whenever you have a task here, you can always do those, use those 3 dots here and reconfigure the task, because maybe you need to slow down for a reason. You do that, and it will take a couple of seconds, but that operation will just step back, and you can just adjust to whatever is happening with your data. When you see that something's off, you can slow down and just make sure that the rest of the application, of your other applications, has all the throughput it needs. Okay. So I can just abort the task actually, and when I refresh the data here, refresh to update, we should see that the number has changed. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Excellent. So it's here. It's just there. We did the work of coding. You can just use it, and it works at all times. Yes, but Mark. So we really looked at exploring the data, looking at the data in different formats, and editing point updates and bulk updates. And as mentioned, I just want to highlight it again. Adding new fields, renaming fields, deleting fields is really great because when you're in dev, you think you really want to do a drastic change in your application. It's very easy to just make sure that all the documents that you have in your data have the schema that you expect. Of course, with NoSQL, you can just change your code and the data can just remain there. But sometimes it's just useful.
So let me ask you a question, another question then. If I'm adding a field, what is it you're doing? Are you then going and updating every document and adding basically empty string or just empty value, null value?
Precisely. So precisely partially. So you can already predefine the default value, but that's basically it.
Got it. Okay.
Create an empty object, empty array, or just those basic basic documents. But you can get to every, basically from that point you can get everywhere. So you can create an empty document and navigate in, and you could be adding more and more fields. It's very interactive, but it's also lots of fun.
Got another user question here, or viewer question. Does Alpaqa Studio support transactions?
Oh, thanks for that. It's actually very, we hear that quite often, that question. Is so we don't. It's something that is heavily discussed. The reason is, so let me maybe show it with that example here. So we are looking at editing data. So I'd be editing data here. And in the default setting right now, it'd be very likely a cross-partition query. And for cross-partition, we wouldn't have the way of giving you a guarantee that it's one transaction. So it's something that we're discussing with the dev team right now. And we started asking our early access users when we have those one-to-one calls, is that what we could be doing is discovering, is it a cross-partition query or not? I mean, we see the query, we know what's the partition key, and we'd be able to give you, an advanced mode of being able to enable a transaction just for that one operation.
I mean, I guess if you could know, and you would, I mean, if you're looking at someone's container that they've got a filter predicate by the partition key and the data and the query results is in partition, then I suppose then optionally you could say, hey, you can do this in a transaction and update from there. So okay.
But it came really in the way of early access user feedback, questions about transactions and how we could make sure that it's available. And our initial response was, it's not here because we have those technical difficulties in terms of being able to guarantee that it's always the transaction. But the feedback was, well, of course we understand it's not always available, but if it is, please make it possible so that we can actually use it. And it was eye-opening, of course.
Well, I mean, we'd have to be able to support transactions cross partitions to begin with, right? So
yes. But if we just do that, limiting to a certain partition, and if you say modify documents matching current query, and we see the query, we actually see the definition of the container because we just loaded the data, then we should be able to discover whether it's a cross partition or not. And, I mean, we are able. So for example, here you see that we show it as the ID, and that's very obvious because the name just indicates that. But we also discover that the business ID for that container is a partition key, and so we have that information available already. And by the way, we do the same for unique keys. So if you had a container with unique keys, we'd be highlighting the fact over here in the headers. So it's also based on user feedback, actually. So you also asked Mark about how deep we go with the schema scan. So I mentioned that we do a schema scan for a page that's open in Alpaqa Studio. So when you navigate back and forth, we currently refresh the data, but we use it already at various points in the application to make work with Cosmos DB just much more fun. So let me add a document. So what happens now is we load an empty document for you, and we know the schema of those documents that we've seen so far. So what we can do, we can pre-populate the partition key for you, because we know, it's a partition key, and we already tell you that we've seen it always. So okay, that's a container where actually I always have my partition key defined, at least in those 100 documents that we're looking at. And we can give you auto completion. So let's say I'd like to add another field, and it's here, so I don't have to type it out completely. So it's much easier to quickly create new document, but also because we have that schema scan information available in the front end here, what we can do is we can display you additional info that we have just discovered. So for example, here, complement count, I tell you that it's something we've seen in 100% of documents we've inspected. So today it's 100 documents. I'll be talking about it in a second. We have plans to do more here, but you see, we discovered that it's almost always a number, but not always. So sometimes it's a string, sometimes it's a number. And that's very interesting because, it could be that that's what you need, because that's how your application works. It's NoSQL in the end. You can do what you want, but maybe it's an anomaly. So with Alpaqa Studio, we want to make sure that we make you aware of things like that, and you can act on it. So in here, I see, well, that's actually odd for my data. So let's investigate that. So I close that new document here. I will not save it. And let's write a query that actually finds that document for us. So I have two ways of doing that with Alpaqa Studio. So the first one is just to know how to write a query that searches for a string, and just fill out the form, or I can just use our new visual query builder. So it's available here. Let me just open it. And that small tool here, it helps you to build simple but also more advanced queries just visually. So it's really helpful, especially in early days when you work with Cosmos DB. You just want to ask the question. So select is disabled, so I just use the default select star, and then I can add a couple of rules or groups to the where statement. So let's say I want to do a rule here. I'd like to look at fields, and I have a bunch of the ones that we have discovered so far. I could also just type in whatever I want, but let's use complement count. And we assume that you want to look for a number because that's something that's most common. So again, you see we use that schema information whenever available and possible and useful to help you. So we see number is 99% of times, but actually let's use a string. Let me just see why. Oh, we need to wait a second. So, so I can basically prepare the query here. I could just run it. I can also do more complex things. I could add, another field here, and maybe some groups. So, for example, something more advanced. Yeah. But let's get rid of it. So, Mark, what happened is my dev environment just went offline for a second. So we'll wait for it to come back. I'm already waiting for it here. But
I got a question for you,
precisely,
actually.
so we can just feel that I'm here.
So from Nikon, does Alpaqa Studio recover from failures, I guess? So I guess say if you were running a local version, desktop version, and it ran a background task, would it keep going, or what would happen there?
So what happens now is that, and actually what happened right now is, okay, I think we stopped that background tasks, but Alpaqa Studio is really, the interactive client. So you will not do any long-running operation using than front-end what you see. So whatever you do that's really more advanced, it goes to that background operation task, and they do recover. So they know their state. They run on a separate service that has very sophisticated auto scaling. So if you have tons of requests, it will spread across multiple machines, and will just do the job. And it periodically keeps its status. How far did it go? When we copying documents, we actually don't store every single ID that we have copied, because that'd be for the performance reasons. But we have checkpoints, so they are able to recover from a certain position. But we will be asking you to confirm that you want us to restart.
Okay, makes sense. So it's running on a job server, basically. So once you dispatch the job, it's just running and then just notifying you basically in the UX.
Yes. But
what if I wanted to? I love this query builder, by the way.
Thank you.
This is something whatever we don't have in our data explorer. This is awesome. What if I wanted to query like an array or something like that? Could you show me a query like that, possibly, like an embedded array?
Yes. So let me open just something on another container, like here, because I want I'd like to return to the previous query. So what you can do here is we have, you can do I have an array here? No, here. I think I have here. So what we did with Tom, there we go. Let's open it again. So what we do here is we have support for a selected subset of Cosmos DB SQL API language. So we are waiting for more feedback, of course, but let's see. Are we here? And now movies, query builder, there we go. Let's move it back here. So that's actually a database of movies from Wikipedia, I think, that we exported. And you can do in-array queries. So for example, here, let's see, genre, rule, there we go, array contains. So we have a couple of simple operations, and the reason is, short. I think we can run this query here. So we didn't go for 100% of language features just yet, because for us, it's the first iteration of the query builder, and we are really eager to hear if there is a lot of demand. If yes, we'll be focusing on making sure that all or more and more language features are being added. So today what we do is we have simple operations on strings. I think here is a string here. No, it's a number. So number, you can do simple comparisons. If you looked at the string, I think we have some contains, length. So a few examples that we just selected, what we were thinking is useful, or array contains, or the length of the array. And it's again a question to the audience. If you think you'd be using that type of a query builder, please go to our website, get in touch, let us know, because that's that's a big vote of confidence, and we know that we should invest more time into that.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this looks lovely, by the way. I love this.
Thanks a lot. So review results, there we go. But we wanted to find that document, with complement count and string exists. So simple as that, you just click it. And I didn't remember that's the built-in function, but Alpaqa Studio knew it for me. So now I have that document. Indeed, complement count has the small icon here for a string. I can also go to the JSON editor and see complement count is not a number here, and I could either change it here, delete the document, change it. So I'm now able to to fix this. And only because I had that feature built in here, that shows me, what's the frequency of those different data types in different data fields. And again, to our audience, so if you guys, think that schema scanning is important to you, or you see use cases for you to, being able, for example, to scan an entire container, or just, subset of the container based on the query, we are preparing to, define the next iteration of our schema scanning, so that it should go beyond just a single page of result sets. And we have a couple of ideas already sketched, and we'd like to run it by you, discuss it with you, see whether the plan that we have is actually something that'd be useful to you, because everything we do here is to make sure that you have use for that. So please let us know. Yeah. No, but so we looked at being able to scan entire containers and display you the data, all the fields that we've discovered, and we would like to use the timestamp from those documents to show you, where those fields show up. So you should be able to kind of see how your containers have, changed over time. But again, get in touch. Let us know. If that's something that'd be useful for you, then we'd be more than happy to to make it available. Okay, I think that I didn't go into every single detail, because that'd be tons of time here. But we looked at querying, we looked at editing, exploring data, bulk editing. I think I should just highlight one fact. So in here today, what you do is you have that form to write the query. You can use the Visual Query Builder. And we are also working on being able to let you just, have free text in here with full language support. So you'll be able to write any Cosmos DB query, and you'll get auto-completion on field names, on language, and with language support, so you'll be able just to write any query. And that's something that's on the roadmap. Right. So One thing that I still wanted to show to you is ability to move data around, because that's something that was very important for us to make sure that you're able to explore the data, do all those Swiss Army knife operations in changing individual fields, reshaping all the containers. But sometimes you really want just to move data around. And it should be as simple as possible, and it's what we did. So let's take a look at this. I can in my use case, I can take, I have the movies container here. I can right click on it and say I'd like to copy that container. And I can now go to another account, another database, somewhere else, and just say, well, right click and like to paste that container. And that's all you need to do. So then we let you know what you're doing. So in order to make sure that you don't make any mistakes, you see that's the source, that's the target. So from the movies container to the top container for the experiment, we make you aware of the fact that actually the partition key changes here. So, I mean, if you're doing an operation like that, it's good to be reminded that it's really happening. Then you can decide what to do on conflict. Today you can skip or overwrite, and we'll be adding more operations here. And again, what I mentioned that we are adding it everywhere is, being able to throttle your request unit usage when you do operation with Alpaqa Studio. So I could say, well, for writing, again, let's, it's oscillate at that number. And useful, and again, something that will be, showing up in all the areas here in the Alpaqa Studio is in the advanced tab, is the ability to select the execution engine. So what I mentioned is that, we have those background jobs happening somewhere on our infrastructure, and today we just pick one that's available automatically, but you will be able to choose one from the list. So for example, in a different region, or maybe it will be one execution engine that you actually host privately in your own account in your own region. So you'll be able to do that from here and just say, actually, that's my default. So all the ingress egress, you'll be able to avoid that just by saying, well, just use my private execution engine for that. Custom query for copying data, we just not do it right now. So what do we have? That's configured. We are copying data. And then what you can do, you can just hit copy, that will be creating that background task and automatically running it. Or you can say, well, just, create it first. We should see it here. There's one. We have the new one. And then, when I'm sure that's what I want to do, I can just run it.
Did you did you say earlier that you could change the partition key?
Yes, so but not so you can create new containers with Alpaqa Studio. It's a feature available here, and you could change the partition key, but it's just as you would do in the portal. So you're creating a new container, and what you can do here is you can just you can take data from that source container and paste it into the new one. We didn't create an individual task that just does everything for you, because it's a very complex operation in terms of user experience. Because
Got it.
we could give you a wizard, but in the end,
user creates a container ahead of time, and then they can do the copy operation here.
Precisely.
Great. I can pretty much guarantee every developer wishes they had a big easy button for doing what you're showing. Like, so, no, I picked a horrible partition key. I need to copy my data into a new container. And usually what we just say is just use change feed. Some people don't want to do that. So speaking of change feed, another question here for you. Will users be able to query the change feed in the future? Well, we don't even offer support for that yet. So I suppose once we let you do it, I guess you would have. I guess is that something you would look to add in the future? I suppose, Tomasz.
We are in the end. In the end, we can do everything that is exposed by the Cosmos DB API and the framework. So we didn't look into this just yet. So what we've been hearing and seeing from the feedback that we received so far is that today we copy containers really by reading and writing the data, but we've seen a lot of requests and questions, whether we could do it via the change feed to enable that seamless data migration for live systems. So that's something that we're looking at. But querying the change feed right now, don't think we knew whether that's available or not. I
Yeah,
think
we
you
don't
highlighted that.
let you
Yes.
query change feed. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yes. Mm.
not
Oh.
yet. That's on our roadmap though.
Yes. When you do, then we'll so to viewers who asked that, in our early access calls, is that we had a question a couple of times. So when you have a view like that open, could you ask Alpaqa Studio to show live updates as they happen? For example, or when you have if you open a view of the document and you're doing something in the application, you'd like to see that document change. And well, for individual documents we could query, but changelog, if we could filter on the changelog, that'd be great because we would use it. Otherwise, Alpaqa Studio would have a lot of work processing and filtering it on our end. So
Yeah.
we had to, respectfully decline that feature request. And I don't like declining feature requests. If you know what I mean.
No, I
Oh.
I totally do.
Mm-hmm. All right, but so it's slowly taking care of everything. You see request units on reading, request units on writing. We do read in batches. We try to fit it into that 1,000 request units. So it's moving along perfectly. So I think from all the key important features that I wanted to show to you guys, I think that's what I had for today. And there's a lot of small tiny things here and there for you to explore. So really, please go to our website, sign up for early access if you want to try it out. I think next week we'll accept another batch. Or if you want to wait for the public release, please sign up for the notification. We'll let you know as soon as it happens, as soon as we go live. I think there's a nice countdown on the website that lets you know when it's happening. But please, get in touch and try it out.
So people can go now and sign up so they can get on the list for the preview when it comes out.
Precisely. So we have. Let me actually open the roadmap because that's something that's really important to to briefly to present to everybody who's here. Because what you've seen now, I did walk you through Alpaqa Studio, some features that are available here, some features that are in dev, and that's really what will happen. So we launched with early access of Alpaqa Studio in late February 2021, I think, and that's where we opened Alpaqa Studio to a small group of users to get that early feedback. And that was very important for us because we just don't want to build the tool for ourselves, but for our end users. So we wanted to make sure that the thing that we're building or have in mind actually has some use. So that's why we started. And based on that, I think 25th and 24th of May, so May 2021, it's the first. That's where we go live. So we have a public release. It has the title "Query and Edit Data Faster," and it contains the majority of features you've seen today. So being able to explore the data, table tree, JSON view, that visual query builder with lots of features built in. The first iteration of field frequencies and data distribution, so you'll be able to explore it a little bit, and that great data editing experience, in-place editing, bulk editing, and that's the result of that early access feedback. We are already now releasing copy and paste of Cosmos DB containers that I just presented. So just finishing some smaller bits, and in a couple of weeks, you'll be able just to go to the website and just use it. But already now, we have that early access, so you'll be able to try it out in a smaller iteration and use it already now. So see how it feels for you. Plus, you'll be able to sign up for that, for the notification when we launch. And it's, I encourage you to do so because we'll have some, great offers for people who are here from the early beginning. So, it's a hint. Please go sign up on one of those lists.
Are you taking private preview customers on still, or is it on hold until you get to your public preview?
No. So it's on hold this and next week because we're just revamping our early access experience, and we plan to keep an early access program on for a while because you see the roadmap is quite packed, and there are things that we want to be able to release as soon as it leaves the test on our end, and we want to make sure that our users, customers are able to try it out. But there will be the difference between the production environment that has all the stable features, and the dev early access environment that has all the preview features. So yes, that private preview is there to stay for a while. So really, it makes sense to sign up for that. It's really fun, and we have a lot of one-to-one calls with early access customers. We have those feedback calls, and that's also great for us because we discover how Cosmos DB is used outside of our small test bubble. And our early access users, they see what happens on our end and see how much work is behind some features and how little work is behind some other features. But so then July, so May is really when we go live. So we will have public release, trial. All the offering will be publicly available, which is finishing some small definitions and bits and bytes. Then July, the headline feature is importing and exporting data with ease. So it's really all about getting data in and out. So we'll have more improvements to copying and pasting containers. So you'll be able really to move data around with and without change feeds. You'll be able to copy data from live SQL databases, actually. So it's something we're previewing already. In today's iteration, you are taking individual tables and you are able to get them into your Cosmos DB containers. We have different scenarios in mind, but it's really, again, something that will be heavily influenced by the audience, by people from our user base, because we need your feedback. If
that's fascinating. Are you going to enable folks to say denormalize data from
yes,
from
that's the plan. Yes, that's the plan, but not in that July iteration. So July is really about the first step for us to make our users aware. Hey, we will work on that. So you see,
that is
data.
That would be quite an impressive feature. I've written and seen some rather ugly stored procedures as you try to take data and migrate it from SQL into Cosmos, where you're trying to denormalize and embed data. It just can get very hairy trying to do that.
Yeah. So we want to give you a very visual way of doing that. So already that individual table to a container experience is really, really exciting, because you can actually see the preview of the documents, how they look like. You can page through those and see, okay, so that's the schema, that's my output, and you can really see what's going to happen before actually you hit, execute, and then it will go to our task engine.
That's really exciting.
Thank you. We are excited as well, and the whole dev team is just waiting for us. Okay, let's get that release out May 2021, and let's build the next iteration of those exciting features. And very, very important. So file support, heavily requested. Being able to copy and paste data from and to CSV, JSON, and Excel. So it's not about those big operations, but actually you have that file on your local machine, and you just want to get it into Cosmos DB, and we want to make it as simple as possible. So again, you are previewing the data. So you select your file locally, you see the preview, you see what the schema is going to be, and then you can just hit execute, and it just goes to Cosmos DB. So that's July already. I'm so confident because we are quite advanced with work on that. But again, please, send us emails. Let us know what you really need, what you want to have, what you don't need from the things you've seen, because that will help us a lot. And then not final, but a very important area, and it just says next, because it will depend on your feedback. Monitoring and tuning performance. We talked to a lot of early access users. We did a lot of interviews before we actually started working on Alpaqa Studio, and we know that that's really, really something that it's heavily requested. Being able to identify slow queries, hot partitions, and have support in query optimization, index advisors, partition key advisors. So that's something that we really want to add value. So we'll be working closely with the Cosmos DB team. So Cosmos DB team works on partition key advisor. So we will not be duplicating work, but actually, making sure we add value and make sure that the tool Alpaqa Studio really helps you in, understanding better what's happening within Cosmos DB in your environment, and how you could tune and improve the performance on your end. And that's very important because, again, from our users, is to for us to get that feedback. What will be interesting for you, because we've done tons of proof of concepts and experiments, and we have an idea what we'd like that monitoring and tuning for performance, what we want it to be, but we'd like to cross-check it with you. So please get in touch. Go to our website, send me an email, contact us on Twitter, and just let's get in touch and discuss performance tuning and monitoring, so that we know which ideas we should focus on, and maybe there are some ideas we have that you would just have no use of. Let us know.
That's great. Absolutely great. I put your URL there up at the bottom, so if people want to go and check you out, they can go and do that and sign up for the preview to get on the list. I see you have a little countdown clock on there too. What is it? What do you get? 30, 33, 32 days?
Calendar days. So it's quite quite exciting.
About a month out there. So sounds good. Sounds great.
I think I promised to mention something about one feature on the roadmap that's not here, but there are like 20 minutes ago there was a question about
let's see, transactions, spatial,
yes. So it's somewhere in the space after import export. So here that's where we have a bit of room to reorganize and reshuffle. So that's where we'll be improving things here. And of course, if you don't see the mouse pointer, here it is. So so once that import export is out, we will be revamping some of the things here based on user feedback. And that's where on our internal boards, spatial data visualization is as one of the work areas. And that's something, again, based on your feedback on, the number of requests that we'll be getting, we'll be trying to make sure we have the priorities set right, so that we can, support as many as possible in, as soon as possible. So that's the goal.
Yep.
Right.
Fantastic.
So I think, so from my point of view, that's all I had for you today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'd like you to go to the website. I think the URL is still visible, but go find out more about Alpaqa Studio. Sign up to get notified on launch. Sign up to get request early access if you want to try it out already now. And please do one of those, because we'll have some incentives after you do so.
Great. Thank you, Tomasz, so much. I love this tool you created. I think it's absolutely just fabulous, and I think users are going to love it as well. And definitely best of luck to you and the Alpaqa Studio folks there. So, okay. Well, thanks for joining us. And then everybody, next week, I've got Thomas Weiss from our team. He's going to talk about the new Azure ADs and RBAC support that we've got in Cosmos. So I don't know if you heard the announcement we had at the Winter Ignite. What was it, in February? But we now have support for this. So you can now log in using your Service Principal ID and just show you all the great features and capabilities with that. So join us next Thursday or Friday if you're in the Pacific APAC region. It's early Friday morning for you there now. And we'll watch Thomas show off all the cool new Azure AD and RBAC support. So again, Tomasz, thank you so much, sir. It was great seeing you and great seeing the tool.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. Thank you for having the chance to present everything, and have a good day, and speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.